Inner critic sounds like a flaw, and most people eventually recognize it as destructive. But there is a second pendulum running alongside it, and it's much harder to catch, to notice, because it doesn't sound destructive at all. It sounds like ambition, it sounds like standards, it sounds like motivation. You watch a performance, someone at your level or maybe slightly ahead, and something activates, a quiet urgency. Why aren't I there yet? That's the comparison pendulum. And by the time you notice it's running in the background, it's already been running your practice for a while. In the last video, I gave you the diagnostic test for the inner critic. Not whether the voice sounds like you, but whether it's actually serving your growth or just making you smaller. The comparison pendulum easily passes that test, or seems to, because unlike raw self-criticism, it points outward at someone genuinely impressive who has already and actually done the work. It masquerades as productivity, and that is precisely what makes it dangerous. For those just joining, a pendulum is any mental or social structure that sustains itself on your emotional energy. It hooks you, you feed it, and it leaves you drained. While the inner critic hooks you through your own failures, the comparison pendulum hooks you through someone else's success. Imagine, you see a peer post, a recording of them playing, or a colleague lands the position you have been dreaming of. A student your age performs at a level you haven't reached yet. In an instant, your own progress feels insignificant. Nothing about your actual playing or who you are changed, but you have triggered the mechanic that Vadim Zeland calls excess importance. By inflating the value of an external milestone, you create an energetic imbalance. Structurally, a pendulum survives by correcting that imbalance, and it does so by neutralizing your momentum. The comparison pendulum is highly sophisticated. It rarely says, just give up. Instead, it packages itself as a legitimate professional challenge. If you practiced as hard as they do, you've been playing for 15 years, why can't you do what they can after just 5? And maybe you just not cut out for this level. Because these sound like honest diagnostics rather than self-pity, we engage. We go to the instrument determined to prove something. We log more hours, we tighten our grip, but that sudden burst of urgency isn't coming from your artistic vision or your values. It is a reactive compulsion. Every time you overcorrect to match someone else's timeline, you are no longer driving your own progress. And by the way, social media, of course, was engineered to make this run at the maximum efficiency, delivering a curated highlight reel of a colleague's best day directly into your isolated practice space. Truly a wonderful invention. So here's how this structural trap manifests at the keys. Let's imagine you're having a good session. Something clicks, you're making progress, you feel real physical momentum. Then you take a break and you see your friend's video or some news post update on social media. After your break, you sit back down and the room, the space feels different. The joy evaporates, the execution becomes forced. What changed? Not your technical capability. Your reference point is what changed. You shifted from an internal trajectory, your own mechanics and incremental growth, 1% at a time, to an external one. Now your attention is fundamentally split between the physical task in front of you and a standard that is entirely outside your control. Excess importance fractures your focus. The practice hours remain the same, but the cognitive output quietly plummets. Disengaging does not mean you stop being inspired by great artistry. Inspiration and comparison are entirely different states. You can be deeply moved by a world-class performance without feeding a pendulum, and the metric is quite simple. Ask yourself, does the performance expand your sense of what is possible, or does it contract your estimate of what you currently are? Inspiration opens, comparison shrinks. 3 ways to break the loop. Number 1, re-anchor to your longitudinal trajectory. Your only valid reference point is where you were 3 months ago. The only legitimate comparison is you against your own past. 2, acknowledge excellence without internalizing a verdict. You can observe that a performance is brilliant without converting that observation into a judgment on your own worth or timeline. Maintain awareness, of course, without adding emotional weight. And 3, redirect into the immediate sound. Apply the same redirection tool we used for the inner critic video. Do not focus on the long-term achievements or how quickly you're scaling the mountain. Focus on the next phrase, the next 2 bars, the immediate physical task. When you strip away the excess importance, the pendulum loses its grip. Not because you stopped caring about excellence, but because you stopped feeding it the friction it needs to run. Both pendulums that we have analyzed, the inner critic and the comparison, rely on the exact same leverage point. They inflate importance. The passage becomes enormous. The gap between you today and who you want to become becomes insurmountable. The stakes, the timeline, the expectations, everything becomes so heavy. In the next video, we are going to look at exactly what happens to human physiology when a goal becomes too important. We will explore why maximum effort and genuine intention can cause results to get worse instead of better. Until then, be curious, be playful. Slava Ukraini!